Hello, and welcome to the Rabblecast. My name is Hernandez, and you are listening to episode number 630. Aha, this time I got it right in front of me, so I know what's going on. Doug's not here in the intro, but don't worry, he is in the episode, and we talk about a bunch of random stuff, to be honest. Mostly Halloween. What do we do, and what's going on? I have a little rant in the beginning of the episode, mostly pertaining to my current employment situation. No names were mentioned, no specifics were given, but I do get a little things off my chest. So forgive me, it's been a little bit of a hectic time around here, so I needed to get some things off my chest. So there you go. I have a platform, why not? Use it, right? We'll see what happens. Again, we talk about a few things we did during Halloween. I did some trick-or-treating with the boy, my oldest, and Doug had an adventure. We'll just leave it at that. You can listen on the episode itself. And then from there, we have a bonus round. When I say bonus round, Doug adds to his list of movies that he watched for Halloween or for the month of October. So you'll catch that as well. And he was nice enough to do the rundown of the other previous 32 films that he watched. So to say, to spoil it, did Doug watch 31 movies in 31 nights? Yes. And then some. So for the full list and for the full rundown, listen to the show. We are brought to you by InsidePulse.com. You can find us under the comics, games, celebrities, movies, TV, and wrestling section because it's come to my attention that the podcast section is not working. I mean, the show is posted there, don't get me wrong. It gets uploaded. I upload it myself. But for whatever reason, the podcast section that I refer to is not uploading or not, the link is not directing properly. So I'll try to reach out to somebody, but in the meantime, we're there. Just type in InsidePulse.com, search for the Rabblecast, podcast is there. If you cannot find us there, head over to Rabblecast.libsyn.com where the show is mainly uploaded to. It's also going over to YouTube.com/Rabblecast, or I believe it's just at Rabblecast on YouTube. Check us out, see what's going on. If you see like the quasi Nintendo logo with the Rabblecast, that's us. Have fun. Bunch of episodes. This is 630. Send us a tweet. Let us know what's going on. What you think of the show. Check out the Rabblecast Facebook fan page because that's where I mainly post, even though I have to get back to using Twitter or X, whatever it's called. And email us, rabblecast@gmail.com. It's the direct line to the show. It's the direct contact if you want to share stories and everything else. I get a few things here and there. I like to read a few things that you guys are talking about. And yes, feedback and everything else. Thank you. It's appreciated. Let's go from there. That's about it. Those are all the plugs. If you are listening to the show, obviously you found on one of those options. If you enjoy, give us a shout. Let us know what's going on. Did you have fun for Halloween? Were you safe like I asked you to be? Give us an email, send us a tweet, send us a message or a comment, whatever the case is. Oh, and this is another call to action for anybody out there. If you're listening on the various different platforms, leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, write a review, whatever the case is. It helps other people find the show if it gets reviewed and liked and everything else. Because obviously people want to, if you like a show, somebody else might like a show, that kind of thing. That's about it. I'm gonna get lost now. Call to action. Like the show. Review the show. Hopefully you like it. We'll see what goes on from there. Without further ado, let's get into it. Enjoy the show. Settling in. Can you hear that when I crack my neck? I don't know if it comes through the mic.
No, I can't hear that.
Good. How are you, sir?
I'm tired. How are you?
Same here. Shortly before starting to set up, I sat down. The wife and kid came back from martial arts class. I'm here with the little one, and we're just relaxing. Jen takes the little one to bed. The big guy decides he wants to go watch his tablet, so he goes to lay down in his room. And I'm noticing that just, as I should be setting up, I'm like, oh, damn, I'm starting to doze off a little bit. This is not good.
Mhm.
Like, today, I shouldn't say today. This whole week has been trying. Not to go into too much detail, I've talked about my work situation and how stressful it has been and how uh, unfulfilling my current situation currently is.
Mhm.
And without naming names, without getting into too much of the details, my boss's husband decided that he wanted to come to visit the lab. And as he was talking to my boss, there was some friction and some frustrations, and all of a sudden, he decides he wants to come downstairs to see what's going on, quote unquote. And when he walks into the lab, he starts grilling the new production manager who has only been there for a week. Well, then I should say he's been there for 4.5 days because he took a half day in his first week. So this is Friday,
Uh-huh.
and he starts saying, so guys, how many boards are we shipping out today? And the production manager responds with, well, we're looking for, he goes, no, I'm not looking for, no maybes. I want to know how many we're shipping out today. And it like rolls into this argument. And I see this happening, and I'm trying to step in a little bit, but the guy is getting loud, and he's very confrontational. And when he walks out of the lab, I look at my boss. I'm like, what the hell was that? And my boss, with the dumbest and like 10-yard stare look on her face, goes, oh, that's my husband. I'm like, I know who the hell that is. What the hell was that?
Okay.
She had no response. She goes, well, he's my husband, and he wanted to see what was going on. Like, he's not my boss. He does not tell us what to do. What the fuck is going on? And with that, the guy comes back in. Now he gets into my face. And Doug, when I tell you that I had to restrain myself, I literally crossed my arms because if I had the knee-jerk reaction to punch him in the face, at the very least, I had to uncross my arms. So I'm like, all right, I have to go through a step first before I actually throw the punch. And he starts getting in my face, from what he says, he's not raising his voice, but he's Italian, so he speaks a certain way. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I let him go through his whole rigmarole about how things are messed up and they might lose the contract and what's going on. And then I defend with facts. And I tell him, hey, look, this is inspection. Inspection's always a bottleneck in any production. For anybody who doesn't know, I do electronics work. And inspection is a very integral part of electronics work. We have a very tricky job. Again, I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it's very frustrating, very annoying. We can only get 10 boards done on a good week that we can ship out. They want 15, which is highly troublesome to do if you want them to be done right. But they keep pushing and pushing and pushing, saying, we need these, whatever the case is. I go through, tell them that what's going on with QC, tell them all the problems I'm running into, reiterate the fact that I was recently in an ER and came back to work the next day to try to help out, but then I said, screw it, and I left because I was literally just out of it and said, I'm just going to go rest like the doctor told me to. Then he's like, oh, why is this taking so much time, and why is this, so hard to get done? I was like, all right, look. When it comes to inspection, there's something called J standard. For anybody who doesn't know, J standard is the standard when it comes to electronics. They have different classifications: commercial, medical, I don't say military. No, I'm sorry. Commercial. So if you look, this is an easier way to explain it. Sorry, I'm getting lost in my own explanation. 3 different classifications. Class 1 is like a toy, just needs to blink, turn on, whatever the case is. Class 2 needs to serve a function, like a VCR or a toaster, whatever the case, from there. And then you've got things that are life and death. It cannot fail in the field. You're talking about military and medical.
Okay, and that would be your highest level of qualification.
Correct. We're building to Class 2. So this is a commercial job. I'm explaining this to him, and I say, look, J standard goes to a certain degree of inspection and what's expected for the final product. That's all fine and good. That takes time in itself. But your wife here wants it done. How is it again? And she looks over and she goes, I want it pristine. I was like, okay, if you want it to her standard, it's going to take additional time. He goes, well, we can't do that. We've got to lighten up some of the things. I look at her, I'm like, well, you tell me, because you're the one who's making me inspect these to your level. Well, okay, we can let a few things go. I'm like, okay. And then I look over him and said, and let me mention to you that 2 weeks ago, before my trip to the hospital in the ER, we had 15 boards ready to go. It was difficult, but I made it. Right down to the deadline. Only to get a phone call that says, we're not shipping today. And why weren't they shipped? And I looked at her again. Because I didn't get the inspection pictures right. And on those inspection pictures for those 15 boards, what did you find? I had one board with a problem. One board with something that's called FOD. F-O-D. Foreign Object Debris. Doug, there was something the size of a hair on this board.
So with that thing the size of a hair, would that cause any problems for the board?
No.
Okay.
You could blow it off with just or an air can, or tweezers, or something. Could easily have been removed. In fact, that piece of FOD could have been easily picked up while it was being packed. But then I looked at her, I'm like, and you held the 15 boards up for a single piece of FOD. And I go back over at him. What do you think? He goes, well, we can't do that. That's impossible. I'm like, okay. Can I make a suggestion? Because here you are saying that your family's on the line. We might lose the contract. Guess what? My family's on the line too. If we succeed, if the company succeeds, my family succeeds, right? Everybody's in on the same page. We're all building towards the common goal. And I explained to him, if you want 15 boards done, how about bump your deadline by a day? Give me the following Monday to finish up everything. And that way we can continue building. And you can even build a buffer as you continue building, because we don't just do that and then stop. You keep building, an extra board, an extra 2 boards, whatever the case is, and that builds up, and then you have a backlog, and then you can use those in case something fails. And just as I finish saying what I'm saying, he slaps his hands together and goes, babe, that's what I was talking about. We have to do it that way. I told you, we should only ship 10, and then we have 5 in the backlog, and then from that way, you can always hit 10. And then she looks over and she goes, oh okay, yeah. He went from not being my boss to suddenly coordinating production. And I was just like, what the fuck? I left the building for lunch, come back, and apparently she addressed the rest of the group on the floor because she felt that she needed to say something. Mind you, nobody else on the floor needed an apology. The only 2 people that needed an apology were myself and the production manager. The production manager, I don't think, really got one. But the stand-in for an apology that I got was, he didn't mean to ruffle any feathers, and he speaks a certain way. And although he does work on the building from time to time, he won't be working with us on the floor anymore. I was like, what kind of fucking apology is that? He's still your husband. He still has a key to the place. He will come in eventually. And if you sit in there and bitch and moan about what's going on, he's going to try to come back down again. To which I was like, you know what? Fuck this.
Yeah, not good.
Resume was being sent out. Emails were being sent. Phone calls are being made. Irons are in the fire. I am planning my exit. And quite frankly, I really don't care if they listen to this. Granted, this is a public show. Anybody can find it. I know I've mentioned in the past that I do a show. I doubt she has the time to look it up because she's so quote-unquote busy. But I was just like, what the fuck? Oh, and the extra added bonus of this is the production manager was only there for a week. The following Monday when I come in, before I even get to the lab, I get a text message. I just got let go. You what? I walked in. She sat me down. She said, I'm sorry, I don't think it's going to work out. He leapt up out of the chair, said thank you, smiled, and ran out the door. For him, he was fine. He was like, because I told him his first day, I'm like, if you can find another job, run. The same advice.
I remember you said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the same piece of advice that was given to me in my first week there. I should have listened, but it was a different time and a different situation. It is what it is now. The production manager prior to this guy was only there for about 2 months. And both guys, good guys, like really how do I put this? Kind of renews your faith in humanity, good guys. That's the best way I can describe them both. They were really nice. They were very willing to work with you, willing to, figure things out, very diplomatic when it comes to like situations that got really tense. But I was like, what the fuck? And I say this not to bog anybody down with negativity and nonsense. In fact, I'm trying to make the better of this situation. I'm going in, I'm doing what I have to do, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to look for something new, stick it out for the time being. You know, as good old JR says, you know, I've got kids. I got to make sure that I provide for my family. That's the most important thing right now.
You.
But I was just like, man, like the nonsense. And it's continued all this week. Like it's now we have a stand-in production manager. Not even it's the front office manager, and she's unfortunately got roped into the whole thing. And I'm just like, just keep her off my back, and we're fine. Like let me do my job. So long as I'm not interrupted, I can get stuff done. But when people keep coming in and asking me questions and see what's going on and see where we're at and give me a status report, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Leave me alone. I can get things done when I'm not bothered.
Which is a good point.
So we're trying to work towards that. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm not going to harp on this much longer. It is added to the exhaustion of the week. The one so far shining moment I can say of this past week, it was obviously Halloween just passed.
Yeah.
Kids went out, had fun. This is the first year where my oldest said, I want to go out for a little bit, which we did. Give him an hour and a half trick-or-treating. We went to my mother-in-law's neighborhood, and we had fun out there. And then he starts saying, I want to go home. Why? What's up, buddy? Are you okay? No, I just want to go home. I want to go hand out candy.
Huh.
Oh, okay. Jen bought some candy from the store. We're going to hand it out to the trick-or-treaters. Came back, met up with my brother, made it a thing. He also wanted to set up his little jumping spider from Spirit Halloween. He got it as a gift from his grandfather for his belt graduation. I think I mentioned that in the past. So the idea is set up the spider. People come for candy. They grab the candies. They turn around. The spider jumps out at them. And
Very nice.
I think my favorite part of the night, as far as that's concerned, at the very end, was as we're hanging out and talking, my brother and I are catching up, and the kids are playing. My niece and nephew are out as well. Jen's got the baby, and he's putting him to bed at that time. But as we're going through everything, a cop car comes by, and its lights are strobing or flashing, whatever the case is. But it's doing a slow drive past our house, so it's patrolling. But as it patrols, it's playing. Oh gosh, I just blinked on the artist.
Inner Circle, Bad Boys.
No, they're playing Somebody's Watching Me.
Oh, Maxwell.
Thank you. Jesus Christ, that literally just flew up my brain.
Yeah, no worries. It happens to me like every other episode.
But yeah, they were playing the song, and it was on loop, and they just go by, and as I wave, they hit the little weird, not the car horn, but the little police horn that they have. So I was like, okay. You know, we're safe out here. Everybody's having fun. Kids are coming through. Everybody's getting candy. Everybody's having fun. A good end to the night. It was a hectic night to begin with because as soon as I got home, we shut out the door to go do all that stuff, and then came back and just exhausting.
Yep.
But good Lord. How about you? What'd you do for Halloween?
I went to a swingers club.
No shit, really?
Yeah.
Your stories are better than mine. What did you do?
Not really. It's not very good.
Well, okay. So let me ask before you go any further. When you say swingers club, are we talking like swing kids from like back World War II, or are you talking like swingers club like down in Florida?
Swingers club like down in Florida?
Okay.
I'm not sure what that means exactly, to be honest with you.
A lot of swingers are in Florida, apparently, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it's the heat and the humidity, but whenever I hear stories about swingers or swingers groups getting together, it's usually down in Florida. So,
oh, they're everywhere, man.
No, I know that. Like, do you remember a while back when Mick Foley did the documentary on the phenomenon of Santa Claus and dressing up as Santa Claus for the kids and everything?
Yeah, that was about 10 years ago, I think.
Close to, yes. And then there was the mention of the one Santa who was like part of like the head of the group, not the, is it the union? I don't remember what it's called. Fraternal Order. And apparently he was a swinger and they said, "Oh yeah, down here in Florida," and then like go to this whole story. I'm like, geez, here we go again, Florida. All the crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
Florida.
No, I remember from the days that you and I would, what was it, on FetLife? You know, all the different groups that pop up here and there. If you don't look, it's not there. It's kind of like Blade, you know, the movie Blade with Wesley Snipes. They're among us. You don't realize it, but if you look at a street corner, you might see a swinger.
You know, it's funny because the club I went to, I remember like kind of like when I finally figured out where it was after looking up the address, I was like, oh, I go to a farmer's market like 50 feet away from there.
There you go. See? Perfect.
Yeah.
Probably shenanigans are happening in that barn. But okay, what, you said you didn't do anything, but what did you see? What did you experience while at the Swingers Club?
Well, I was kind of doing a scouting run more than anything else because I was like looking around. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of like curious how this entire thing works because that was one area I never really dipped my toes into. So let me start checking this out and seeing if there's any if there's anything worthwhile here. So I do some looking around and I find out there's not one but two within about a 30-minute drive of me. The other one is in New Jersey, not too far from Clinton. Use that for as the information as you will. So, you know, I shoot a message to them and it's like, because also like I had no plans for Halloween night. I had nothing going on at all. So I was like, well, you know, I could sit home and do nothing, or I can say, if somebody asked me just like this, somebody asked me, what'd you do Halloween night? I'd be like, I went to a swingers club. Did anything exciting happen? Not really. So I get there and it's got the vibe of it. It's like, there's lots of like giant, like sectional couches. So there's lots of room for people to like hang out and conversate. They're all BYOB. So you can bring your own booze, but they'll have the mixers there and all that kind of nonsense. You had a dance floor, you had a stripper pole, you had 4 or 5 private rooms where if like people want to take it in there and like kind of like get out of sights to go do what they want to go do, they can take care of business that way. So I had gone alone, and the absolute worst position you can be in at a swingers club is being a single guy.
Okay.
Because you're pretty much just it's like you're kind of looked at like you're a shark circling basically, because you're just there hanging out, looking to get down to business. And, you know, of course, most people are there to the most in-demand groups in swingers club are single females. Because it seems like, I swear to fucking God, everybody in the goddamn swinger scene, it's always a straight guy and a bi-curious or bisexual female. Okay. So yeah, they're either looking for that, or if it's a situation with, whatchamacallit, or if it's a male-female couple, they're always up for that, because then, you know, people can do the whole swapping thing if that's what they're going for. And if not that, then, lowest on the bottom of the totem pole is the single guys, because nobody really knows what's going on with them. So nobody really wants anything to do with them. They're just kind of like, oh God, you're just a pain in the ass. So I get there about 7:30 or so. I'm looking around. There's a couple of people there hanging out. They're having cocktails. They're chatting a little bit. I had to laugh at one point because on one of the screens they were playing porn, and it was some of the worst early 1990s shot on video pornography I've seen in 25 years. I just look at it and I was like, oh God, this brings back so many memories of like working in a fucking video store. It's not even funny. So I'm hanging out, and me being me, I also figure something else out. At a certain point when I go to stuff like that, like I'm not just going to sit there like staring at people or just, you know, not doing anything, because I'll get bored quick and just leave. So of course, in my mind, I was like, I'll bring a book with me and I'll just hang out and read for a while.
Okay.
So yeah, I brought a book I've been working on about me. It's a collection of different ghost stories from different regions of Pennsylvania. It's fair to middling. It's not the best book I've ever read, but I'm sitting there reading it, and you know, I'm just kind of hanging out. Like periodically, I'm just like looking around, seeing what's going on, stopping, getting a drink of water, you know, just watching, just like trying to figure out. Like, it almost felt like it was like an anthropological mission. Like I'm just trying to like understand how this works, because it doesn't make any freaking sense to me. I did notice, and granted, I was only there about 2 hours. By about 9:30 or quarter to 10 or so, I was like, all right, I've had my fill of this place. I'm going to fuck home. Plus, I was starting to get tired and hungry. But yeah, there was a lot of dancing, very badly. In addition to myself, there were probably 6 other single guys just kind of skulking about, being creepy. So yeah, at a certain point, I was like, wow, this is just rough. So I was like, okay, I can see why women kind of cluster together here. Like, because there was like about 3 or 4 single women there. And I'm not sure if they all knew each other or if they were all just like, let's all kind of hang together because, yeah, the guys here are being like some real fucking creepers. So I pride myself on not being a creep, which is why I was sitting in the back minding my own business, reading the book and occasionally just like looking around to see what was going on, because I'm not going to be like, yeah.
Next time, if you ever go into the fray, can you like bring yourself like an adding machine and have like that little like green visor cap and just do accounting in the corner? Run the numbers.
Motherfucker, I'll do my taxes there. I don't give a fuck.
Oh my god. Okay.
So yeah, it was a decent adventure into trying to figure out the unknown, and a lot of this spurred off because a few weeks ago I went with a friend of mine down to Philadelphia to go check out what was supposed to be a combination of a kink party and a swinger party, and from what I got from the place and from talking to my friend, who she is actually she actually goes to swinger clubs on occasion, she said that was the worst attempt at a swing event I have ever seen. And I said to her, why? What's wrong with it? And she said, it's set up perfectly for kink because there's lots of play equipment and stuff like that, but it is not set up at all for any type of swinger event. In the sense that there's not really like conversational areas. The music was a little bit too loud. The temperature wasn't right, because if you want people to take off their clothes, you kind of need to make it warm. And it was very cold in the warehouse that we were in. So it just nothing worked out that night. So I was like, okay, let me see how these are supposed to work. So yeah, that's how I checked it out. So yeah, it was an interesting affair, but it was one of those deals where I was like, all right. We checked it out. We saw what was at. It cost me a pretty penny. It cost me $45 fucking dollars to get into the fucking thing. But that's how these venues make their money.
Wait. What does the $45 go towards? The rental of the warehouse?
No, it was the door fee at the club I went to on Halloween night. Oh, because the thing I went to on Halloween night was actually I'm sorry, I'm mixing. I'm drifting back and forth. So the party at the warehouse in Philadelphia from a few weeks ago, that was $80 for 2 people to get in.
Okay.
And that was a waste of money because nothing happened. The one I went to on Halloween night by myself, that one cost me $45 to get into by myself, because swinger events are famous for having tiered pricing. By what I mean by that is, so for example, if you're a single guy and you want to go, you're going to pay the premium.
Fair.
You're going to pay the highest amount.
Yes, I can see
then
that.
in the middle, if it's a male female couple, they're going to pay like a lower amount to get in. So for example, from the rates I recall of this place, the single guy is $45. A couple is $25, and the single woman who wants to go is free. Because these clubs know if they get a reputation for having plenty of single women there, yeah, the couples who are looking for MFF threesomes or single guys, they're going to be lined up to get in if they know there's a bevy of women in there. So that's always the trick of these things.
Okay. Seems like so opportunistic.
It is, but it is what it is. But it makes perfect sense if you think about it. Do I like it? No, but I understand it. I mean, like I said, I probably, counting myself, I probably saw 7 single guys there just hanging out. So yeah, you do the math, 7 times 45. So
yeah, no, it adds up real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay, that guy made at least $300. So he probably, just on like single dudes that night, yeah, he made a good couple of bucks. So maybe enough to cover expenses for the evening. So yeah, and that's the thing. So it's quite interesting that, and I'm kind of like weirdly fascinated. There's 2 swinger clubs within that short drive of me. So, and actually a third one not too much further out.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
what spurred the visit? Like you were just like you said, you were just doing recon, or did you actually were just like, oh, I should go to a swingers club tonight?
I wanted to do the recon, see what they were like, and kind of get like a flavor of like how these events work, and how like the social interactions are. Like, how do people talk to each other? How do people engage with each other? So, like, what really kept my eye is a couple of times I'd see like couples hanging out, and I'd be like, okay, how are they making the moves? Like, okay, do they just go over to another couple? Who initiates the conversation? How does this work? How does the discussion go? And so what I saw is there's an awful lot of time just spent just basically just talking, socializing, and kind of trying to gauge the comfort levels of everybody else. So like I said, it was very much like, I'm here to do research. I'm here to figure out how this one works. But yeah, like I was even thinking about it. It's like on the ride here, I was like, I put my odds at actually getting any type of action, maybe 75-25 at best.
Okay.
Just because I realized those, like, I'm going to be a single guy there. I don't know anybody there, so I have no in. So yeah, the odds are I'm probably just going to have a real quiet night on my own. So, and I was right.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Now you've got me. Only because in a situation like this, if I'm not used to it, I always, default to comedy and sarcasm for defense. I suddenly just want to get like War and Peace and start walking through the rooms or walking through the warehouse and reading from it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Good form. And just start preaching in front of everybody to see what happens. It's like, come on, dude, Tolstoy is not really giving me the vibes here. Leave me alone.
It's like, yeah, it's like, what else am I going to pull out? I'll pull out a copy of fucking, I don't know, A Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich or something. I don't know. We'll just read classic literature or walking around there.
Just start reading some dirty limericks. Oh boy. Okay. That was definitely not expected. Sure.
It was a weird one, but now, like I said, now I have I got an amusing story for what happened on whatchamacallit for Halloween evening. So like I said, it would beat the hell out of just sitting at home doing nothing.
Beats the hell out of getting candy, I guess. Shit. I mean, if the scenery was nice, I should say, as far as the ladies, whatever the case is, or whatever your persuasion is, I'm not gonna, what's the phrase? Yuck somebody else's yum if somebody else is into something else, whatever the case is. Now I'm going to ask this question only because I know there's going to be listeners going, wait, Doug has a girlfriend. He's mentioned it before on the show.
Yep.
How does that work?
She's cool with it.
Okay, fair enough. I don't want to get a call later in the night like, Eric, that whole story about the swingers, can we just fucking cut that shit out? No, okay. I just want to make sure everybody knows.
No, I even asked her beforehand because she went to a friend's house to pass out candy and hang out with her while her husband took their respect. So my girlfriend, she went to her friend's house. Her friend has a husband. The husband took their two kids out trick-or-treating. So my girlfriend and her friend stayed behind to pass out candy at their place.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. So, and I even told her about a week beforehand. I was like, hey, this is my plan. Like, everything good with that? And she's like, yeah, that's cool.
See,
so,
that's
yeah.
Awesome.
Communication. It's funny how that works.
Exactly. That, and she probably knew you were going to be reading the book the entire time, so you're fine.
Well, she told me, she even looked at me, when I was telling her about it, she's like, did you even make out with anybody? I was like, no. The most conversation I had with the guy who was working was the guy who was working the door when I was like, here's my information. And he's like, okay, $45. And I was like, oh, here you go. And he's like, here's your change. And I was like, oh, where can I get a water? And he's like, oh, they're right over there in that cooler. Help yourself. And I was like, thank you. And that was the most I talked to anyone there.
The most action I saw was in between these pages.
Effectively, yes.
Hey, man, whatever happens. No, I have to ask, any weird costumes at said event?
Well, that was the other thing that kind of caught my eye about the whole thing. So there were a few people in costume, which was cool. I'm like, all right, fine. It's Halloween, do your thing. The women who were at the event were either in costume or wearing like very like lovely dresses, or in a few cases, some of them were literally just walking around in like nice lingerie or underwear, like, like a pair of panties, a bra, like a garter belt or stockings, or some type of deal like that.
I'm picturing the White Queen from the X-Men and Hellfire Club.
Okay. Darker colors, but yeah, not too far off.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, there were a couple of guys who were in costume, but a lot of other ones just look like schlubs. Like, I even was thinking to myself, because like, okay, I'm going to this event. Number one, like, I showered, I shaved, I've got a very nice like black fitted dress shirt that I wear. I do like a nice sharp cuff on the sleeves. I tuck that into like a nice pair of like kind of like fitted like stretchy black jeans, tuck it in, a nice leather belt, I cleaned and put a bit of a shine on my boots. I wasn't in costume and I wasn't like, super splendor, but I was looking sharp.
You dressed for the occasion.
Yeah, I tried to like at least like clean, squared away and neat and, good.
Okay.
But yeah, there were guys there who were just like, it's like if you're just going to wear like some weird ass random t-shirt, your faded ass jeans, and an old pair of sneakers, like you look like you're going to the corner bar, man. Like, I mean, that kept bugging me all night because I'm looking, I was like, dude, yeah, it's like, come on, clean up a little bit, sharpen up a little bit. What the fuck?
What are you talking about? I brushed my hair. I'm okay. Come on. I want to get some pussy. Come on.
There was like, okay, like I saw a couple of guys who were there as part of a couple who looked like schlubs, and I was like, fine, whatever. You already won the game, so fine, good for you. But yeah, some other guys there who showed up by themselves who just look like, it's like, but did you just get off work and like what the fuck? Like a little effort. Just put a little effort forth.
If you work in an office, make sure you have a clean shirt on and just go from the office to there. At least you're business casual. Something. You see, that's the other thing, because I've only ever been to a couple, and when I've gone,
couple what?
Events or group gatherings. I think we were with you for the one, and I don't think I dressed up for that one.
I think you just wore all black.
Yeah, because it was you, me, and Jen. We wanted to go check it out and see what was going on. And
oh wow, that was a long time ago. Holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, you recognize some of the people. We were there like, what the hell's going on? And I still fondly remember the one lady. Do you mind if I share some of the story?
Please do, because I barely remember this, because that was a long time ago.
Okay, it was somewhere in New Jersey, and I don't remember the town we went to, but it was part of the event for the group, and when we went to go check it out, go in, I think there was a fee at the door, I can't remember. You introduced us to the guy who was there, who was running the event. We had never gone, so we were just our first timers with you. And as soon as we got there, some random lady in a cat suit comes up to you and plants one on you. And I'm assuming Doug knows this person, because it was a very fine hello.
I remember now.
Yes.
Okay. It's coming back to me.
And as we were going through and we're checking out different things, we saw a few other people from the burlesque scene that were hanging around. We knew a few faces here and there, but I fondly remember later on when they were doing a little dance-off, letting people pick their song or whatever was playing, and then they would dance to the music. Same cat lady decides she wants to hop in and have some fun in front of the crowd, and all of a sudden she starts jumping up and down. Literally, her breasts come popping out of her top because the cat suit was that tight. She goes to cover up at first, but then realizes, oh wait, I'm in this event, whatever, and just lets it go. I'm like, oh, okay. Lovely. And we didn't stay long. I think after that, we went outside and you met up with another friend outside, and you guys were just hanging out, just talking, and then that was pretty much it. We stayed probably an hour or two, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Saw
some stuff, took in some sights, and that was about it. And all right, gotta go. That was nice. It was not your typical evening. Let's put it that way. So
no, and that was at the club. Oh, that was up in North Jersey. I want to say near Totowa, maybe. Yeah, sadly, it wasn't much longer after that. That club got shut down. Well, no, it was. I think it may have been Hurricane Sandy. That place got flooded bad.
Oh, really?
Like, I want to say, like, there was like 5 or 6 feet of water in the place.
Oh, see, you should have told me that. In my brain, every like weeknight, that like once a week, that they still gather there in my brain.
No, after that, they pretty much just gave up on that place. In fact, the group that would run their parties there, they've been scrambling for space for years after that, like going from like converted warehouse to converted warehouse. And then, I don't even know if they've actually even opened up anything, post-pandemic, but that's, kind of throwing everything between the pandemic and how real estate's gotten completely out of control in the last, couple of years. It's gotten more and more difficult to run spaces for stuff like that.
Interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, for a place like that, do you tell whoever you're renting it from what you're doing? Or do you just say, I'm running a special event, or...
Well, I don't know. I've never actually organized any of these type of events. So truth be told, I don't really know. I can imagine you can, if you're only going to run a couple of events, or it's not going to be a permanent home, I'd say maybe you can get away with not telling them. But it seems like one of those things where it's like, this is not going to end well.
No, so I'm wondering, as you said, with everything going now with the economy and real estate and inflation especially, I'm wondering that if you say, hey, I'm going to run a kink event, or I'm going to run an adults only event, and they're like, oh, really? Then the price just went up another $500. And just like, what the fuck? So, like, because I know, because the way that sexuality is viewed in this country, and I know people get fucking really, like, uneasy about when you say, oh, we're going to run, like, an adult party here, or we're going to run a porn party, whatever you want to refer to it as. I know that they're usually called kink events. But when you mention certain things, like the convention down in Atlantic City, when they do the AVN Awards, they usually had them down there for a while. I know they've moved them different places. But,
oh, yeah.
But like AC, that just goes hand in hand. Like Atlantic City has a certain reputation, so it seems it makes sense that adult stars would go down there and congregate for this convention and these award shows. But when they say, a smaller group that's not famous people, but as far as we know, say, oh, we want to run something out of this gymnasium, or out of this health club, or out of a warehouse, whatever the case is. And like, oh yeah, we're just going to rent it for once a week or once a month, whatever the case is. But then if people get wind of it, and if it, starts making more waves or a ruckus, then people are like, oh, no, we can't have this here. Especially, God forbid, somebody religious finds out what's going on, then everything's fucked. But like, I'm just curious, like, how the logistics of that would work out. Saying, hey, we're going to get together here, whatever the case is. Because again, FetLife was the one wow, it's been a while since I've signed on to FetLife. FetLife was the one site that we knew of. There's a bunch of other places now. Now you've got like Discord. You can have different chat rooms and threads and everything else, and social media itself. There's different groups, and I'm sure people congregate in different places. There used to be what the fuck was it? Out here by us, there used to be a Fuddruckers not too far away from us. And I remember that for whatever reason, a lot of the, was it Munches they referred to them as?
Yes, Munches.
They would always like get together at Fuddruckers. And I'm thinking to myself, I've been to Fuddruckers a few times. It's an okay place. It's not something I would, pick as my first option to go out somewhere. But then I was like, I've been there. Wait, you're telling me all these kink people congregate there in little groups and then they decide what they want to do and plan? That just seems odd. Like, I never...
What does it seem?
I never picked Fuddruckers. Again, it's not my first choice for a meetup. So, for the fact that, like, a sex-oriented or kink-oriented group made that their meeting place, it's like, you couldn't have picked, like, a Barnes & Nobles or a coffee house. Fuddruckers just seemed weird.
Well, usually the trick with when you're doing a munch is there's 2 cardinal rules. Number 1, you want someplace that's got, ideally a private room is perfect. Like, you know how like some places that you can get like the banquet room or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah, that's ideally what you want to do. Because that way you can actually have conversations that are a little bit more risque and not have to worry about, offending or being off-putting to anybody else patronizing the restaurant.
Fair enough.
So that's one of the big rules. And the other trick with those is, you want to keep those no more than PG. Like, those are the kind of events where you can have those conversations in public, and that's fine. But when you're going to a restaurant or a diner or a Fuddruckers, or I've been to Munches at Denny's, all the many, many diners around New Jersey are, tend to be popular spots for that. Yeah, when you go to those things and you're doing and you're having it, you use them. They're effectively meet and greet events. So
Yes.
you're not going to go there and immediately start talking about like some type of very sexually explicit activity. You're going there to get to meet each other and see who you vibe with, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. When I was mentioning Fuddruckers earlier, I didn't mean like they were like screwing in the back room or screwing off in the side booths. No, like you said, it's a meet and greet. It's just literally like if you find somebody online or if you join one of the groups and they invite you, it's just literally just chatting to see who's there, what's what, and that's it. And then from there, you might plan another get together or another outing, whatever the case is, or hell, if you're comfortable with it, go back to somebody's house and progress from there. It's yes, you're right. Like I said, it's. I use the analogy of Blade again. You look around, anybody could be part of the group. You don't know because they're keeping it very low profile, and then from there, if they leave, because they look just like you and me, Doug.
Yeah, I know. It's funny how that works out.
But they can go out and have some fun at that point if they choose to progress further. There's homes or certain places they go to, or like another club, whatever the case is, and from there it's like designated playtime or safe zone, whatever the case is. But yeah, no, as you can hear the way I talk about it, I very, very little actual experience in that situation. So I've only been to a couple, and from there, just like, okay, I was pretty much on the outskirts, just looking in, and nothing has been like outlandish or crazy. I'm just like, okay, just fun. I see what's going on here. Not entirely sure if it's my scene altogether, but then again, I'm also very standoffish when I meet somebody for the first time. Like, it takes a lot for me to trust somebody.
Yeah.
And so for me, I don't think that kind of situation really works out all too well, because I'm always like, I don't know what your game is. I don't know what's going on. Are you crazy? You're not crazy? That kind of thing. So I'm just like, too many questions go in my head.
Fair. Yeah. Okay.
That's just me. But you, I mean, it sounds like you had a fun fucking Halloween.
It was interesting, and like I said, I mean, after about 2 hours, I was like, all right, we're good to go for this one. I've learned everything I'm going to learn for the evening. The place was open for another hour and a half. I think they closed down at 11 p.m. I didn't stick around to see if anything of note had happened after that. Like I said, it was, it was more like reconnaissance than anything else. And then after that, it was like, all right, I've learned what I need to learn, and I picked up a little bit more information about the whole thing, how the whole thing works. So we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yep, that was my adventures of Halloween Eve, or Halloween night, I should say.
There you go. I know last time we spoke was part 4, at least I'm labeling it part 4 of the 31 movies. Did you watch anything past from last week?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, shit. Because I think you left off like, what, 32? I'm always going to get the
32.
Oh, shit, I got it right.
Yeah, 32.
Okay.
No, you got it exactly right. Yeah, I watched another 7 movies.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was going hard this year.
All right. Would you care to regale us with that one, or?
I'll do the recap up to number 32, and then I'll tell you and I'll reveal the final 7 of the series.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
Okay, so taking us off back, number 1 was Night of the Demons. Number 2, Messiah of Evil. Number 3, Hell House LLC 3. Number 4, Hell House LLC 2. Number 5, Psycho Gorman. Number 6, Crimson Peak. Number 7, Hell House LLC 1. Number 8, The Dead Don't Die. Number 9, Renfield. 10, Lords of Salem. 11, Terrifier. 12, Brotherhood of the Wolf. 13, Funhouse Massacre. 14, All Hallows Eve. 15, Dead and Buried. 16, Friday the 13th. 17, The Wicker Man. 18, The Conjuring. 19, the original Halloween from 1978. Number 20, Holidays. 21, Raven's Hollow. 22, Popcorn. 23, Halloween 2. 24, I Drank Your Blood. 25, X. 26, Pearl. 27, Near Dark. 28, Rob Zombie's Halloween. 29, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. 30, Death Spa. 31, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. And 32, Exorcist 3. So for our final series of the time, number 33, Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, aka Jason versus Carrie. Number 34 was Jennifer's Body. From that came out in I think 2008 or 2009. Never got around to seeing it. Not bad. It's a fun little possession movie with
Megan Fox.
I already forgot. Megan Fox, that's it. I was trying to remember the name. I was struggling there. Thank you. 35, House by the Cemetery, because I realized I hadn't watched any Lucio Fulci films this month, so I had to get at least one in there.
Okay.
Number 36, do you remember The Hollow Man with Kevin Bacon?
Yes.
Yeah, I never watched that before.
Is that considered a horror movie?
I'd say so. It's basically a play on The Invisible Man.
Okay, fair enough. I just never put it in that category. Okay.
Yes. That was 36. Number 37, Five Nights at Freddy's.
I'm actually halfway through that one right now.
I saw it pop up on Peacock, and I know, this just came out in theaters, so I was like, yeah, let me check this out, see if it's any good. And it wasn't too bad. So there was some fun stuff in there. Not the greatest movie I ever saw, not the worst movie I ever saw.
Yeah, I was doing recon on that one for my son. He's a big fan of the games, and he plays not the actual games themselves, but he plays offshoots of them on Roblox, which is a gaming service online.
Okay.
And he's familiar with the characters, he's familiar with the animatronics and everything else, especially because he's big into Chuck E. Cheese, and he's done a deep dive on the animatronics, the history, the characters, the relationship between Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz Pizza back in the day, and how Five Nights at Freddy's is pretty much a callback to all those days. So I decided I wanted to watch the movie to see if maybe he can watch it. Like I said, he's not into horror or scary stuff, although he loves Halloween. But I've got partway through, and just the scene where for anybody who hasn't watched it, there's a scene where 4 people break into the old pizzeria, and they start trashing the place, and the animatronics come to life, and they just take out the people who are vandalizing the whole place. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, no, my son's not going to want to watch this at all. So I'll watch the last 40, 50 minutes of it just to complete it for myself. But I'm like, okay, you're right. It's not the best. It's not the worst. It's capitalizing on the games, but apparently it's making a lot of money in the theaters. So good for them.
Mm-hmm. That was 37. Number 38, Trick or Treat, the horror anthology from 2007, set on Halloween night. And I closed out the month by watching number 39, Hell House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor, which I've been waiting for a couple of months now.
That one just came out recently?
That was just released. It played at a couple of horror festivals in New York and Los Angeles and a couple other major cities over the last few weeks. But on Monday, October 30th, it went live on Shudder, the horror exclusive streaming service that's administered by AMC. And yeah, it was, you know what? I'll give them credit. The 4 Hell House LLC movies, pound for pound, blow for blow, they're probably by far the best found footage movies of the last 10 years or so.
Okay.
In fact, I might even go longer than that. In fact, they've probably been the best found footage movies I've seen in quite some time because, well, most found footage movies suck. But these ones are actually pretty damned good.
I was listening to an episode of one of Kevin Smith's podcasts, and he was recounting how back when they, I can't remember which film festival it was, whether it was Sundance or another one, but he got a copy of The Blair Witch, and he and his wife wanted to catch it, rather than go to the theater to watch it. And Kevin Smith passes out during the movie. And when he wakes up, his wife is shaking him, and he's freaking out, what the hell? What's wrong? And she just starts she starts frantically saying, why won't anybody help these kids? She was completely convinced that the whole thing was real, was like, found footage. And he goes, "No, it's a movie." She goes, "Bullshit. I saw the video. I saw the footage. These kids are in danger. Why won't anybody help them?" And finally, he had to call up the one guy who was part of the festival. He goes, "Yeah, my wife is watching a copy of the Blair Witch. Can you please explain what's going on?" And she gets on the phone. She goes, "Why won't anybody help these kids?" Wait, what? It's what? Oh, fuck you. I was like,
Oh my god, it worked.
Yeah, oh yeah. I remember that when Blair Witch came out, there's something to be said about when a movie does the advertising right. And on Sci-Fi, they released like this quasi documentary detailing some of the background story for it. So they were talking, they mentioned the kids, but they don't go into too much detail. But they talked about the lore of the Blair Witch. And everybody who watched that documentary, it just reaffirmed that the movie was found footage. So people who were freaking out, people didn't know what was going on, and for the longest time, they couldn't explain anything. And then suddenly, when the actors who played the kids, or the teenagers, kids, who were lost in the woods, they start doing talk shows and panel shows, and like, wait, they died. Like, we saw the footage. No. You saw a very cleverly made movie and cleverly planned out movie shoot, and it worked. But yeah, a lot of people just fell for what that advertisement was, and it's hard to explain to somebody, and you and I lived through it, but it's hard to explain to somebody nowadays, especially younger, just how crazy the Blair Witch phenomenon was initially.
Yeah.
But then when they tried to capitalize on it and make a sequel and so on and so forth, how the diminishing returns just started setting in real quick. But it was fun for what it was. And
yeah, it took off really hard. I remember in the summer of '99, that was the buzz that was going on. And and you got to give them credit. I mean, I think we've talked about this in years past on the show. They borrowed very heavily from an old Italian movie called Cannibal Holocaust.
Yep.
But they basically took it and they kind of tweaked it and made it their own, and and they rode the wave. So they did well.
I didn't remember how much the budget was for that one, but for the box office, again, I don't know the specific numbers, off of very, very low budget shoot. And again, you're out in the woods, you have some cameras, you're piecing together the footage. They were just given like very brief directions and instructions as far as how the characters should act and react.
Yep.
But they did it. They had fun with it. I don't know if any of those three individuals went on to have any other further acting careers, but like, that's something to be said. Like, part of that phenomenon. Hopefully, who knows? Maybe in 2029, they'll do like the anniversary thing of, hey, remember this? And then they'll do the rounds again of talk shows and everything else, if they're still around. I don't even know. Maybe Hollywood swallowed them up and spit them out. You never know. But yeah, I haven't been able to watch any other found footage one and really actually, like, as soon as you tell me it's found footage, like all right, like, that's been done. It's kind of hard to really like top it, but if you find a good one, I'm gonna have to check it out. We'll see.
And like I said, and it's also fun because number one, the first three of them were filmed at a haunted house in Lehighton, Pennsylvania, not too far from where I sit right now. And I found out the new one is actually filmed in an area where, whatchamacallit, basically where like my mother used to live.
Okay.
Yeah, like I was looking at it and I was like, I got to figure out what this filming location is. And then at the end of it, they put up, it's like filmed on location at blah 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 blah. I think it was called Fernhull House. And I was like, why does that sound vaguely familiar? So I looked it up and I was like, oh, wow. Okay. I know where this is. So yeah, it's up in the middle of nowhere. It's a big, beautiful, beautiful house. So yeah, it's pretty cool that it's all filmed around basically Scranton, Pennsylvania, and like roughly those areas. So yeah, good shit.
Where was the Blair Witch shot again? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think it was somewhere in Western Maryland. It's been a while. I honestly have not watched that movie since it came out in the theaters back, I think it was 99.
Yeah, no, but I also remember, like, especially after the movie came out, and again, once the the story was out that it was found footage and it was just a movie, not an actual discovery of lost film, that at that point, once they found out, because of course, internet people just want to find out and visit these places. So much like the camp where Friday the 13th was filmed, that's become now like pretty much a tourist attraction for fans of the film. So has the town where Blair Witch was shot, and people still go there from time to time. I don't know if it has as strong of an attraction as Friday the 13th, because if you measure the two, I think Friday the 13th is still like cult classic and stuff like that, and just a bigger hit. But it depends. I guess it depends on your mileage. I guess your experience, and some people will say, if you have the choice. I know you've gone to the camp where they filmed Friday the 13th, but I don't know too many people who've gone to the Blair Witch site.
Correct, and I'm actually looking it up right now because, let's see, where the hell was this fucking filmed? Blah blah blah.
For some reason, I remember when and I know it's not the actual place, but I always thought like Blairstown was like seemed too on the nose for it. But
here we go. Most of it was shot around Montgomery County, Maryland. Okay,
there you go. Hey, if you can find, I remember when I was growing up, one of my friends, his sister had somebody like it was in an art or a film school or art class, something like that, and they had to do an assignment, and they decided that they wanted to film, a student film. And it starts off with everybody in the car, and they're all talking about what they're going to do for the night, and the drama starts in the car, and secrets are coming out, whatever the case is. Then an argument breaks out, and then somebody swerves when all the talking is going on, and they go off the road. Now they're lost in the woods. So you've got essentially three areas. You have interior of the car, outside in the woods, and then like the road they find for civilization. But apparently the road, the woods that they use, they just use the backwoods of somebody's house, and they just film all these different scenes, and were like very creative how they framed shots and everything else. Yeah, it was a student film, but I got to say it captured my imagination. Like I was caught in the whole like story of it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. But by the end of it, I'm like, oh, all right. And they used the Jurassic Park theme when they found the road back to salvation.
All right, like, there you go.
All right, I can see where you're going with this one. But no, yeah, if you know your location and you use it well, like you can have a bunch of different shots and scenes and just frame them and shoot them from different angles, and you can reuse areas over and over again, and people won't realize that you're just recycling the same set or the same scenery. So, hey, get creative, have fun. Make it work.
I was going to say, if we've learned anything in our lives from Lloyd Kaufman, the man behind Troma Films, it's film as cheaply as you can, reuse everything, always film your outdoor scenes before your indoor scenes. And yeah, if you're going to ever like blow something up or do anything big like that, make sure you record it from many different angles, because guess what? You can use it again later on down the line in different movies, because they blew up a car once, I think in the mid 1980s, and they're still using that footage. And I think they were still using that up until the 2000s in movies.
Who is notorious for that? Not Kaufman. Roger Corman.
I was about to say, yeah, Roger. I almost said Harvey Korman, but I meant Roger Corman.
Yes, another gentleman who, if you wanted to cut your teeth in film, who was the... Oh gosh, I'm blanking on her name now too. Worked with James Cameron on Aliens.
Sigourney Weaver?
Not Sigourney Weaver.
Give me more.
She was behind the camera, behind the scenes kind of thing. Damn it. For anybody who wants the backstory, if you check out the movies that made us on Netflix, you go to the Alien episode, Aliens, because it's not Aliens 2. They do the story of James Cameron. I want to say it was his producer, but she worked with him, but she went to Roger Corman's school and essentially just was taught how to film on a shoestring budget. Like, there was no asking for extra stuff. There was no asking for an increase of the money or financials. You had to make it work, and you had to get it in by a certain time. If not, no good. And
Are you talking about Gail Ann Hurd?
thank you. Yes, she also worked on the Walking Dead.
Okay, yeah, she's like a big name in Hollywood these days. Yeah.
Yeah, she cut her teeth with Corman, and went on to work with Cameron and a bunch of other notable people, and has a pretty big career at this point. So, yeah, there's something to be said for learning how to do that with tight constraints. Who was the other one? Ron Howard worked with, I want to say it was also Roger Corman as well. Because when they did Grand Theft Auto back in the day, like he was asking for extras, more people, and he goes, no, you make it work with what you got. And rather than get like 50 to 100 more people for the extras scene, he just zoomed in, and the small crowd that he had filmed them tightly. So it seemed like you had that claustrophobic feel of all these people, but it really wasn't that many people altogether if you zoomed out with just a small group. But they made it work.
Yeah, there you go.
There's all these little tricks and different things. And again, this is where my appreciation of the films are now. Like where I watch something, the angles, how it's filmed, the lighting, and everything else. Like I can't go back and watch any of the CSI TV show.
Okay.
Because every time they show the lab, it's like this weird, like greenish hue of a glow for lighting in the lab. I'm like, who in their right mind would fucking work in a lab with that kind of lighting? Like, you need to see things.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's like, you'd want those like very well lit, right?
If I'm taking blood samples and I'm running them in a murder case, I want to see what the fuck I'm doing. I can't stand this green light that's going on anymore. Yeah, and I understand it's TV. It was done by a certain way to get your attention and set up a theme or give a certain feel. But now going back, like, all right, it was a choice then. It doesn't age well, and that was only like what, 20 years ago at this point.
If that, yeah.
It was, because I remember one of the first seasons was they actually had a Sega Dreamcast near its launch, and they were playing one of the football games.
Okay, that was 99. I think the Dreamcast came out, so okay, a little earlier.
Yeah, so 98, 99, but it led the craze of everybody like, oh, I want to be a forensic scientist. Do you really want to be a forensic scientist? Do you know what's entailed? just because it's on TV, you realize they speed up the footage to make it seem more sexy and fun and like, oh, I'm accomplishing things. Like, no, test results take a while to come back sometime.
Oh yeah.
So.
And yeah, it's a lot of very tedious, very detailed work. Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's. But again, the way it's filmed, the way it's done, like you can get some really, really cool shots on it. For anybody out there who likes breakdowns, there is a YouTube channel called The New Rockstars, and there's a guy by the name of Eric Voss who does all these breakdowns. He does things for like the Loki show that's on Disney Plus currently. When any of the new comic book hero movies come out, they'll do extended breakdowns. They'll do first reactions and breakdowns and everything else. They did a breakdown of Scream, which I think I mentioned last episode, but they'll talk about like the Dutch tilt on certain things, or certain shots, just to make you feel like uneasy or something's wrong in the shot itself, just to give the illusion of that as far as the intent. And all the little tricks and some of the stuff behind the scenes with the script. I think I mentioned before, Henry Winkler's character of the principal was not originally supposed to be killed in the movie, but because the studio didn't like that there were too many beats between kills, they're like, oh, we need another kill here. Who do we kill? Oh, the principal. Let's take him out. Like, sure, let's add that to the script. But it gives a lot of the call-outs, a lot of the callbacks, different things that they go in there just to try to, fill in the gaps for anybody who wants to get a little extra insight into the film. So I'm like, all right, these are fun. I'll sit down every now and then. I'll watch them. I'll learn new things that I never knew before, and I'll come away with a bunch of new perspectives. To which I was like, oh, I think I want to go watch Scream again. And then, of course, that starts the ball rolling. Oh, I want to watch all the Scream movies again. And that's a dangerous rabbit hole, so I have to try to stay away from them late night. Yeah, it's another way to... So, all right. I might have mentioned this, I don't know, a couple times, where if I watch a movie, whether it's comic book or other, as soon as I'm done with the movie, the first thing I do is I go over to IMDb, and I go to the trivia page, and I just start looking up all the little tidbits of trivia, like they'll tell you about the budget, they'll tell you about the script and the drafts and the writing and who is going to be picked for this character. And something I learned recently: Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Okay.
Bob Hoskins played that role brilliantly. And one of the stories that came out of there was he had to pretend that he was talking to these animated characters, so he had to essentially hallucinate Roger, Bugs, Daffy, Mickey, whoever he was having the scene with. And it got to the point that after he finished filming, that he actually had mental trouble about 6 months to a year later, because he was still having these hallucinations of these characters popping up. He said he would see weasels randomly.
What the fuck?
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine like you had to get your brain like in a certain mindset to do this role, and then now he's stuck with that in his head for a little bit. Like he almost like broke himself just for this movie. The other cute story was his son was upset with him for months later after they watched the movie in the theaters, because he claimed, my dad knows Bugs Bunny, but he never let me meet him.
Oh,
because he assumed like, oh, you're friends with Bugs Bunny, but you never bring him over to the house. Like, no, you don't get it, stupid. These are fictional characters.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But now imagine this: they went through a list in the trivia page of different people who were alternate choices for Eddie Valiant, the detective in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Now, I don't remember if Bob Hoskins was the first choice, but I do know that at one point Bill Murray was going to be tapped to play Eddie Valiant.
Interesting.
They called him. They couldn't get a hold of him. Production kept going. They eventually were going to go with Bob Hoskins. They tried calling again. They couldn't get a hold of Bill Murray. They said, screw it. We're getting too close to filming. Let's go with somebody. Let's go with Bob Hoskins. He seems like a great pick. It worked out wonderfully. That movie's great.
Yeah.
Sometime later, in a magazine or one of those, industry journals, Bill Murray is out in a public place, reads the story of potential actors who could have played Eddie Valiant. He sees his name and sees the story about what happened, how they tried reaching out, and they couldn't get him. They tried to read. Apparently, in this public place, even though he's in public, Bill Murray let out an audible yell of frustration.
Oh, wow.
Because apparently he was like, fuck, I so would have played that role. God damn it. Now we have the alternate universe of Bill Murray playing Eddie Valiant, and how that movie could have played out completely different than what we got. But
yeah, goddamn,
you never know. That's one of those things that just lives out in Hollywood lore. I'm like, man, that would have been an interesting pick from that. So there we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good shit.
So that was your bonus round, huh?
That was it. So yeah, I did the tallies up on that one. I did pretty good. So I watched 39 movies over the course of 31 days, and so far, the other thing I was happy I pulled off was, let's see, 22 of them I'd already seen, and 17 of them were brand new. So I really watched a lot of new material this month, which I was also very happy about.
That's cool.
Yeah. So good shit. Now it's time to take a break and watch some other stupid shit.
I was talking about old shit. There's, I want to say it's November. We're in November already, so I think it's later this month. They're going to be releasing a remastered, I don't know if it's Blu-ray or whatever the case is, but an updated version of the Monster Squad.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a few changes here and there that they had made, not to the movie itself, but they added a few deleted scenes, some more like show notes and everything else. The cover of the movie itself, when they show the squad, they've added the little sister to the cover.
Okay.
Because she was part of the Monster Squad, let's face it. Even though she fought really hard to get in, they would say, oh, no girls allowed. The one thing I never knew about the Monster Squad, and it was covered in one of the videos I was watching, was that they didn't have the actual license for the Universal characters.
Correct.
So I never knew that. And you know what? That made perfect sense, because I remember growing up, when I watched the credits, I always try to like catch different names. And when I was looking for the creature from the Black Lagoon. I'm like, oh, they don't have the creature. And all of a sudden I saw Gillman. I'm like, what the fuck is Gillman? Makes sense. You don't have the license. You can't call it Gillman. Even though it looks like spot on. That costume was probably one of my favorite ones in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And you rarely see him because I imagine that costume was probably very uncomfortable to wear. But those were offshoot versions of the Universal characters that we all know and love as far as like classic Hollywood monster movies. Yes, it's Frankenstein's monster. Yes, it's Dracula. Yes, it's the Wolfman. But like I guess those are so general in terms of their names that you can get away with saying, "Oh, this is Dracula." Like Renfield. Like, there's another Dracula. How many Draculas have we had in film? Plenty. So I think even the third Blade movie had Dracula himself, quote unquote, even though it was a different version of him. Not the Universal version, but that way they can film it, have fun with it. And there was a bunch of like little trivia tidbits here and there. I have to go back and watch it again because The Monster Squad is one of those movies I remember growing up. Of course, the one line that everybody remembers from The Monster Squad is "Wolfman's got nards."
Of course, yeah.
But it was one of those like little weird things. Like the movie moved so quickly, the story was so concise. This little group of kids who love horror movies or monster movies, and suddenly monster comes to town, and one kid deduces, "Oh, it's Dracula," and all this other shenanigans play out. And then you've got the creepy German guy, and Van Helsing shows up at the end in the portal. It's a fucking awesome movie.
Oh, it's a blast from the word go. Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to probably hunt that one down because that's one that you don't find on streaming services too often. So again, in the world that we live in with streaming rights, it comes, it goes. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. Hell, before we started recording, I just found out the Ghostbusters, the movie, is free on YouTube. You can just watch it.
Huh, all right.
Put it on in the background just for stuff, and I was like, good times. It's weird what's available and what's not sometimes, but
It's interesting, yeah, because I know rights are what they are, and also in some cases too, if ownership of a movie is murky, like if it was put out by a company and then that company went out of business, and then part of the rights of certain movies were bought off in a fire sale, and then that was acquired and then moved to this one, and blah 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 blah. You get to the point where it's like, some companies, I tend to wonder, it's like, do you even know what properties you own, or is it just all kind of like lost in the ether? So who the hell knows?
Well, that's it. Like in some studios, they'll pick up an IP and they'll just sit on it.
Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, like Jen and I are big Firefly and Serenity fans. A lot of the Joss Whedon properties early on were always fun, and Fox held on to them. And then whenever they were like, "Oh, we want to get like a revival or a reboot or whatever the case is," Fox is like, "No." All right, well, why don't you sell it to us? No. Are you going to do anything with it? No. Motherfuckers. But now, all those Fox properties have ended up over in Disneyland. Because at this point, House of Mouse bought them all out. So all that stuff has new owners. And who knows? Maybe some of those things will get revived. Some of those things will get new versions of them done. I think right now, they are using the Predator property in Marvel Comics. So now you're having like Wolverine versus the Predator and stuff like that. So
okay, like, yeah,
there's fun little like crossovers of one shots and see what happens. But again, it's a fun way to use properties when they're not being filmed over and over and over again. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've reached the end of the night, sir. How do you feel?
I'm ready for bed.
Yeah, me too. It's been a night. It's been a week. Fuck. At least tomorrow's Friday.
I was gonna say we got that going for us.
And it's November now.
I'm trying not to think about that.
Fair enough. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. My name is Eric Hernandez, along with...
I'm Doug.
And we are the Rabblecast.